Richard Blackmore, would you mind coming on up and sharing how you knew this man? Are you okay using this so we can hear you?
I think so.
Thank you.
We have to say it. Is this thing on? It is. They asked me if I wanted to write this out, word for word, and gosh, I tried. And after 3 or 4 hours, I lost 10 pounds, and it was all tears. I thought, I can't do that. I think I'll just write an outline and speak off the cuff a bit. I had the pleasure and the honor and the privilege and the blessing to know Carmen as a musician, but also as a friend and a brother for 40 plus years. He was a pal, an advisor, a mentor. And last week, for the first time, he made me cry. Carmen left a lasting impression on everybody that met him. They wanted me to speak more from the music or musician aspect today, and I'll do that. I don't think he ever met a musician that he didn't like and didn't admire, and he was always there for us. He referred to us musicians as his brothers and sisters. He supported us. He was our cheerleader. He always rooted for you. If you had dreams about music, he wanted to know about those, and he wanted to share those dreams. He gave you encouragement. He gave you motivation. He gave you inspiration. He'd do anything for you, and he did. You need some equipment? You borrow this, or let me find it for you, and help you in any way he could. Always there for you, and he prayed for you. He shared your successes and your victories, and when you felt sorrow, he felt your sorrow too. There really wasn't anybody quite like him. I know when he first came to town, as Joe described him, this wild, skinny Italian kid from Chicago, we didn't know quite what to make of him as a musician because he just lit up the place. We hadn't heard anything quite like that around here. I know the first time I heard him, I think my eyes were this big. I'm not sure they ever got any smaller. Carmen was an awesome guitar player. He was an awesome musician. One of my music heroes, no question. And in all the years that I knew him, he just kept getting better. And he was a flamethrower the first time I heard him, but he kept getting better. And all along, encouraging other musicians. Well, he was the older guy. He's a few years older than I am, so I used to soak him up like a sponge, as so many musicians did, because he had that sage advice. And he never lied to you. He was always completely honest. He'd tell you the truth if it hurt. But he gave the best advice and the best direction. I'm not sure really how much I would have done with music if I hadn't met him. I suppose I would have played because I was into it before I met him. But I can't imagine taking him out of my life and imagining what that would have been like. And it's somebody else, of course there are a lot of somebody else's, but somebody I wanted to mention today has become a mutual friend of mine, and his name is John Beeland. And this was Carmen's best boyhood buddy. They grew up next door to each other in a little place called Hometown, Illinois, Chicagoland, a suburb of Chicago. And as young kids, they met each other and became best buddies. And John wanted to learn how to play guitar, but he didn't have one, but Carmen did. So for quite a while, they just passed this guitar back and forth, which was kind of awkward because Carmen played left-handed. And John played right-handed. So they passed this single guitar back and forth. And of course, John had to tip it upside down or turn it around or whatever he had to do in order to play it. So finally, John got a guitar too. Well, Carmen taught him everything he knew, and then they started teaching each other stuff. In 1963, they were in their first band together. 63. Well, as we heard earlier, Carmen went on to play all over the country, but I wanted to point out that so did John Beelan. In fact, John Beelan made his life as a professional guitar player and played with the likes of Ricky Nelson, Dolly Parton, and just a long list of who's who in the music business that he ended up performing with and recording with. And I've had many conversations with John over the years, and one of the things he always included when I talked to him was that it all started with Carmen for him. And he'd talk about the things he'd done and the places he'd been. He said, you know, none of that ever would have happened if it hadn't been for Carmen. Well, that's just one example. That's just one example, because this is how it all trickles down. John Beelan and myself and so many others have gone on to try to mentor people and help people in the music business. And you see, that all starts with Carmen. An indelible impression. Well, one other thing I was going to say is John mentioned that, you know, I became a guitar player. The kid next door was a guitar player. I mean, it might have been different if the kid next door had been a hood and a bank robber. I don't know. But John's pretty happy about how it turned out. And he wishes he could be here today. Carmen, of course, in this area, famous for working with the Free and Easy band, Together Again band, but you name a band, and at one point or another, he was either a part of it around here or he sat in and jammed with all of us at one time or another. Carmen, back in the 80s, was always helping people. Certainly always helping me. He said, I got a piece of gear and you need it. He said, I'm selling it and you need it and I'm going to give you a sweet deal on it. Well, it was this effects processor that you plug your guitar into and so on. And he said, I'm bringing it over to your house and you can't refuse. You need this thing. And I thought, boy, you must really want to get rid of this. You must need the money or something. And no, I needed this thing. He brought it over and like, where's this thing been all my life? Well, I'm happy to tell you, I still use that thing every night I play, and it's been 37 years. Every recording session I've ever worked on in the last 37 years, that's what I used. And every gig with very few exceptions. Back in the day, Together Again was working across town at the Holiday Inn, and my band was playing at the old Chalet, which isn't here anymore, but many of you remember where the Chalet was. It was on the other side of the viaduct. Well, our band started at a different time than theirs. So we could work it out that when we went on break, we'd run out and get in our car and go over to the Holiday Inn and hear those guys for like, 8 or 10 minutes, and then jump in the car and run back and get to our own gig. Well, it became like a game, and those guys would come over and see us, and we'd go over and see them. And this is back in the day when we were all wearing tuxedos with the big fluffy shirts and the big bow ties and bell-bottom slacks and shoes with heels this big. Well, one night, we're on stage, and we look up, and Steve Tomasky comes in. I said, well, you know, Carmen's probably sure to follow. And he's there. We're both bands wearing these big fluffy shirts, and here he walks in, and our drummer says, well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Steve Tomasky from a band that's some friends of ours, the Together Again band, working just over on the other side of the bridge at the Holiday Inn. And we're watching the door thinking, well, somebody else is coming in. And in walks Carmen. And Carmen has this big bandage wrapped around his head. And he's got one arm in a sling. and the other arm's got a crutch underneath it, and he's got one of his legs all wrapped up in a bandage, and he comes hobbling in. And we said, well, and ladies and gentlemen, this is their guitar player. And he says, I'll have you know I got hit by a car on the way over here. I deserve a free soda. Well, he might have been getting back at me because, again, Carmen and that left-handed thing, I told him so many times, you play guitar left-handed, and that's just not, well, it's just not right. I go over to the Holiday Inn and borrow some lady's hand mirror, and I put a chair in front of the dance floor in front of the stage and use the mirror to look up at him so I could tell what the heck he was doing with that left-handed thing. Well, it looked okay from that angle, you know. You stop that. Stop that. Put your chair back where it belongs. He referred to us musicians as brothers and sisters, and we referred to him the same way. And again, we laughed together and cried together and shared everything we could together. A couple last things I want to finish with. We've always had a close community of musicians here in this town. And 20-some years ago, we lost another friend of all of us, and that was Ron Schmoke. And it happened very suddenly and unexpected. And we were shocked and stunned, and just like today, we were pretty doggone sad. Well, Carmen and I were on the phone 2 or 3 times a day when this happened. And the night before the service, they were going to have a visitation at the funeral home. And Carmen says, well, I'll come over and pick you up, and we'll go to that together. I said, yeah, I'd like that. I'd like that. We'll go together. And he came over, and we got to the funeral home, and the place was packed. And the whole parking lot was packed. And we ended up parking way in the back, and it's going to be a long walk from where we were to that funeral home. We got parked, and we just sat there for about 2 minutes. Neither one of us said anything. And finally I said, you know, I don't want to do this. Last minute denial. You know, it's like if I don't walk in there, maybe it didn't really happen. And Carmen said, I don't want to do it either. But we're going to do this. And then we sat there another minute or two. And I realized that both of us were crying. And neither one of us wanted to look at each other because it was just going to make it worse. But out of the corner of my eye a couple of times, I caught him looking at me and vice versa. And we knew we were both crying. So finally, he took a deep breath and put his hands on the steering wheel and said, well, we're going to do this. We're going in. It's okay. We're going in. We got out of the car, and we made it as far as the back of the car, and we're standing next to each other, and both just stopped. Now we're really crying. I didn't say anything. I started to walk. It seemed like with every step, my legs were just heavier and heavier. Gosh, I don't want to go in there. I have to. You know, I've been able to try to deny this to this point, but now I have to actually walk in there. And I swear this is true. We got to the middle of the parking lot, and both of us stopped again. And we're weeping. We're sobbing. And we started to walk again, and simultaneously, both of us reached out and took each other's hands. And we held hands. And there we were, 2 grown men bawling like babies, walking across the parking lot, holding hands. And I told him afterwards, you know, I don't think I could have walked in there without you. He said, I couldn't have walked in there without you either. Well, I can't leave it at that. Among all the other joys that Carmen brought us was a marvelous and at times outrageous sense of humor. Carmen was a funny guy. He brought me a lot of laughs. And some of you probably had the same experience where he would call you out of the blue and you pick up the phone and it's him doing some goofy voice. It might be some famous movie actor. He called me once as Cary Grant. Or maybe a cartoon character. You know, I once got a call from Barney Rubble from the Flintstones, and it was Carmen. And those were fun, and we laughed at that a lot. Remember when answering machines came out? We all had to have one, kind of like a CB radio. Got to have one of those. The answering machines with the little tapes, you know. And I bumped into him at the music store, places we bumped into each other a lot. And what's new and all that. And they said, hey, I got something new. I just got an answering machine. Just hooked it up yesterday. I haven't had any messages yet. I said, you ought to give me a call and listen to it, you know, see how that outgoing message sounds, you know, if the audio is okay and if I sound like I should. He said, yeah, okay. And I kind of forgot about it. And the rest of the day went on. I got groceries and I was in town quite a while. And I got back home and I'll be darned, that light was flashing. I got my first phone message. Well, all right. Turned up the volume and pushed the play button, and it was Mickey Mouse. Hi, how you doing? I like your new answering machine. Well, gotta go. I got Pluto and he needs to go for a walk. Ha 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 ha. Bye-bye. Thanks, Carmen. I know another time he called me as John Wayne and read me the riot act. Well, that horse you told me was a lemon, and I had to shoot it. I'm sure going to miss him. I'll miss him. But I'm so thankful that I have a lifetime of happy memories, and they're all right here. They're all right here. They're going to keep me warm for the rest of my days. So on behalf of everybody, and especially all of us musicians, I thank you, Carmen, for being our brother, for being one of a kind. We'll always love you. We'll never forget you until we meet again. Oh, wait.
Thank you, Richard. That was beautiful.